The 2024 NASCAR playoffs kick off at Atlanta with one former champ getting into trouble early and setting his postseason backwards, and another former champ locking himself into the round of 12 early on in the postseason. But looming overhead, charter discussions with two organizations refusing to sign NASCAR's offer for 2025. Are their charters being taken away, and what happens next?
High, push it, checker flag, hell yeah!
What's the caution for? Me?
Can I not push it in?
Stop anybody.
Come on, he's going! Way to go, boys!
One hell of a job, man, one hell of a job. Thank you so much.
You ever just decide, I'm going to cut off all my hair in the middle of the race? That's kind of what I did. Welcome on into Shifting Gears. I am Alan Bailey. Boy, do we have a lot to discuss. We should be talking about Atlanta. We should be talking about Ford being dominant out at Atlanta. We should be talking about Joey Logano and his attempt at a third championship. Should be talking about Kyle Larson making another mistake on the racetrack, which might have cost him an early exit in the playoffs or put him in danger at least. It also caught up Chase Briscoe. His playoff chances are now must-win-ish. And, oh, by the way, this is just the first round. That is what we're going to talk about today, but we're also going to talk charters and how NASCAR basically forced the teams into signing this agreement against some of their wills, and what exactly is going to happen moving forward with two prominent organizations from the Toyota and the Ford camp choosing not to sign this charter agreement. Are they going to be signing in the next couple of days, or are negotiations with NASCAR more or less starting over? Oh, we have a lot to discuss. And before we get on into it, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you don't miss a video. And of course, log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. Straight up, NASCAR's pissed off at me. NASCAR's pissed off at any reporter right now who's going to talk charters. We're going to talk charters in this video. I can't not talk about it. Let's go through Atlanta really quick, though. Early on, lap 56, Kyle Larson with a massively hard hit in turn 2. Unfortunately, it was a flat tire, and guess what? He collects the 14 car. Wrong place, wrong time, and that means that Chase Briscoe's season may or may not have just come to an end, or at least his playoff run. He is deep out of the playoffs right now. We will talk about his chances later on. Now, Ryan Blaney picks up the Stage 1 victory, and then we fast forward to lap 117. We get a caution for debris on pit road. Spire Motorsports causing havoc on pit road all day, with the 77 of Carson, host of our getting into the 45 of Tyler Reddick, your regular season champ, on pit road. They had to bring that 45 Toyota back down pit road, and they did have to align it and make sure that the tow was good. They would continue in the race. Now, we fast forward to the end of stage number 2. Austin Cindric, who was a surprise playoff driver, ends up winning stage number 2 up front early on in this one, and proving that Fords and Penske in particular, very powerful. Now, lap 205, the 17 car missed out on the postseason, gets loose, gets into the 12 car, who gets knocked into the 19. Oh boy, playoff contenders once again. The 19 would get the worst end of this damage. He'd go on to pit road, meet minimum speed, but by his own words, just sucked all day and was very slow. The 12, okay, luckily it hit in the door and he was able to continue with no problems. Now, we fast forward to the very end of the race, coming to the white flag, the 10 car getting spin down the back straightaway, and guess what? Overtime, the thing NASCAR loves to see with their playoffs. That set us into a green-white checkered, and it was actually looking pretty good. It looked like that one car was going to give his 99 teammate a push, and it was going to be Suarez in the 22 of Logano coming to the line, battling for the win, but something happened with the one car. He lost touch with the 99, gets into the wall heading into turn 3, and that checked everybody up, and unfortunately started a pile up in turn number 4, taking out the 21, the 11, and the 23. Race ends under caution. Clearly Joey Logano out front. He is your winner. He locks himself into the next round, the round of 12 early on. Here is an updated look at the current playoff standings after Atlanta. This could change, but this just came from NASCAR after they reviewed the footage, so more than likely this will stand. You can see, obviously, Joey Logano has locked himself in. Honestly, everybody else is fine. You can see them right there, but let's talk about the bubble drivers, in particular from basically 10th on down. Larson, because of the incident today, now only plus 15. He's still looking pretty good, but more or less his advantage coming into this season and coming into the playoffs is gone, so now he really has to find some ground. Denny Hamlin plus 2 after, frankly, an abysmal day. Ty Gibbs was already back here. Brad Keselowski, not a great day for him. Harrison Burton caught up in that incident right there at the very end, now negative 16. Martin Truex Jr. with some issues in a bad car all day, 19 out, and obviously Chase Briscoe, negative 21 out right there. So right now, if I'm Keselowski, Burton, Truex, and Briscoe, I'm already thinking must win. That's the mentality you have to have at this point. But obviously, we have 2 more races in this round. Anything can happen. Joey Logano, he's kind of peaking at least in the right time. I'm getting a lot of senses of what Penske and Ford has done the last couple of years. Remember, they're undefeated in this next-gen era with championships. And last year, Ford won all the championships when we went down to Phoenix last year. So yes, Ford is pretty powerful. They are the fast ones. They showed a lot of speed in Atlanta. They showed organization in Atlanta. And you look at what was happening on the flip side of that with Toyota, you had Denny Hamlin, who had some spark plug wire issues, which caused a bad qualifying lap, which caused him to start in the back. And you had the 19 and the 54 also changing those in the back. But they were screaming on the radio all day about how their cars were awful, how they were slow, and not a good place to be right now for the Toyotas. The Fords, on the other hand, very strong. You have Ryan Blaney, your defending champ. You have the 22 of Logano, who won the championship a couple of years ago, and they more or less are doing the same thing this year. I'm getting that sense that this is going to be another Penske year early on, and I know that's an easy take to have right now, post-race, but that's kind of where we are right now. We did see some interesting line calls. We had the 99 who was kind of forced down below the line. There is no double yellow line here, but NASCAR does have a white line that's down there, and they say, hey, don't go down there. But it's not nearly as strict and clear as what we see at Daytona and Talladega. I think it's time to change that, please, and thank you, NASCAR, because there's no real clear line. Literally paint a line on the racetrack. Make this clear, make it consistent with Talladega, with Daytona. Go double yellow line here. It's that simple. Let's do that for next year at Atlanta, because that's the type of racing we see here. You had the 99 forced down there by the 22 at one point in this race. NASCAR ruled no penalty for the 99. The 22 forced him down there, but they called it on other drivers, which was weird. Even you had, for the first time that I can remember in a long time, the 51 getting penalized for blocking down the back straightaway. This one was a little egregious. I think he necessarily pulled out at one point to kind of maybe block a little bit, and then might have gotten knocked down there a little bit. The footage is interesting from the angle that we're seeing it at from the behind. I don't know. It's one of those balls and strike calls, and I don't like NASCAR calling balls and strikes. I hate it, actually. But it is in the rules that if any of these drivers do block that aggressively, that NASCAR can actually penalize them. And that was kind of a block. It was a little excessive at these speeds. It's very excessive, especially heading into turn 3 when you're doing 170, 180-ish. It's like, let's not play this game going down the backstretch into 3, huh? Let's not do that. But the big topic, charters. Charters dominated the news cycle over the weekend. There is no question about that. NASCAR wanted this charter negotiation done. They wanted the new contract signed before the playoffs start. And because of that, NASCAR drugged their ass, and a certain member of the France family who has never raced a car, grew up in his dad's shadow, and kind of sort of doesn't go to the racetrack at all. Sound familiar? And he's kind of buried his head in the sand, and he did that a few months ago, and these negotiations have been ongoing for the better part of 4 or 5 years, and now they kind of force the teams, hey, this is our last offer, sign this before Saturday morning or else. And guess what? 2311 and Front Row Motorsports both separately decided, no, we're not going to be bullied into signing this contract, which, according to at least the team owners and what they're saying, because nobody wants to come out and talk about this. Nobody wants to put their charter on the line. Nobody wants to put their standing with NASCAR on the line. Nobody wants to, frankly, lose money and lose a deal here, because we're hearing that there is a disparity clause in the contract, meaning that essentially the teams can't talk shit. I'm sorry, what? Like, I don't agree with that at all. If NASCAR is doing something stupid, which they do from time to time, the teams and the owners and the drivers and the crew members and the media, for that matter, all need to be able to come out and say, no, NASCAR screwed up. NASCAR's doing something wrong. We're not going to sit here and live in fear of our NASCAR overlords, even though that's kind of what is going on and has gone on for the better part of 76 years in NASCAR. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. NASCAR is a privately owned company. The tracks are on privately owned land. This is their party. We're just the guests, and unfortunately, that's how NASCAR sees it. I don't necessarily see it that way. The teams are an integral part of making this sport work. Without the teams, without the drivers, there is no sport. I'm sorry. I don't go to a NASCAR race to watch NASCAR personnel go out there and officiate. I don't. I never have. I go out there to see drivers, some of the best drivers in the country, and those teams compete. They're the ones putting on the show. NASCAR is just the ones opening the doors and keeping all of this organized for me and you, period. 2311 put out a statement as to why they chose not to sign the charter agreement, reading, quote, 2311 decided not to meet a NASCAR-imposed deadline last night to sign charter agreements for its two cars for the 2025 through 2031. 2311's position, as stated in a letter to NASCAR, is that we do not have an opportunity to fairly bargain for a new charter contract. We notified NASCAR what issues need to be addressed in writing at the deadline. We are interested in engaging in constructive decisions with NASCAR to address these issues. We are interested in engaging in constructive discussions with NASCAR to address these issues and move forward in a way that comes to a fair resolution while strengthening the sport that we all love. At 2311, we remain committed to competing at the highest level while also standing firm in our belief that NASCAR should be governed by a fair and equitable practices, unquote. Let's just look at the facts. The details are what we're fighting over, but the raw facts in 2024, you have organizations like Hendrick Motorsports, like Penske, who are winning races, winning championships, and consistently making the playoffs and consistently winning races year in and year out, who have been operating in the red. They have been losing money consistently for the better part of 10 plus years. That's not sustainable to anyone. If you're losing money, you can't run your business. That's the reason we've seen so many cup teams go out of business the last few years and so many owners move on and merge and bring in outside partners. NASCAR's really against outside partners coming in with money. It's essentially what happened with 2311. They came in and kind of pointed out to everybody, hang on guys, we're not drinking this Kool-Aid, but there's something in the Kool-Aid because this isn't right. We're all losing money here. Meanwhile, NASCAR is reporting profits, green profits, in the millions, closer to the billions. This isn't right, period. I don't care where you stand on this. It just looks bad. It is a bad look for NASCAR that they waited until the 11th hour of the playoffs starting to bully these teams into signing the agreements. 2311 stood their ground, and they've taken a stance on this, and they believe in the long-term longevity of their company, and they want to be here for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They don't want to just go away in the next few years. They've invested multi-millions of dollars into this sport, into their organization. Front Row Motorsports more or less said a lot of the same reasons that 2311 listed publicly that they didn't sign is the reason that Front Row Motorsports didn't sign, and frankly, I feel bad for the smaller teams. It's very clear the smaller teams were bullied into doing this. 2311 called them out publicly, and I God bless them for it, for being honest. But Denny Hamlin, the owners, the drivers, nobody is really taking questions about this. NASCAR, Front Row Motorsports, and 2311 personnel have all declined to comment on this. They're on ongoing negotiations. I'm sorry. It's going to be really hard to get answers out of anybody right now. I'm hearing some things, but I'm not comfortable reporting on them because I haven't confirmed them yet, but I don't necessarily like the level of communication that is not happening between NASCAR and these teams. This isn't over. I don't necessarily know if this is going to be over by the end of the season. I don't get that sense. And frankly, we're going to start seeing some of these teams, particularly 2311 and maybe Front Row, maybe start to boycott. Maybe if one of them wins a race sometime in the next few weeks, we don't see an interview, or we don't see them go to victory lane. I don't know. This is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. Let me know where you stand on the charter negotiations. And while you're in the comments down below, also let me know, what did you think about the race in Atlanta this weekend, opening up the playoffs? What did you think about Joey Logano? Yes, I know everybody hates Joey Logano. Another Joey Logano win. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. And while you're there, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you don't miss a video. And of course, log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. I want to thank you so much for watching. For Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see you at the track.